He can't even speak properly, my brother told the judge. I need to protect his assets. I tried to object, but the words came out wrong. What he didn't know was that my speech therapist was recording everything. My name is Dr. Stephen Warner. I'm 58 years old. I worked as a neurosurgeon at Cleveland Clinic for over 20 years. Was one of the best in my field, specialized in treating traumatic brain injuries. Ironic, I guess, considering what happened. I never was much for talking about myself, even before. Preferred to let my work speak for itself. Publications in major journals, successful surgeries, patients who walked out of the hospital when everyone said they wouldn't, that kind of thing. My brother Philip is 5 years younger, always been different from me, more social, more ambitious in his way, not the academic type. More of a, what would you call it? An entrepreneur, at least that's what he called himself. New business every couple years, new opportunity, new reason to ask for money. I helped him out. Of course I did. He's family. When his restaurant failed in 2018, I covered the debts. When his tech startup collapsed in 2021, I paid off the investors. Just until things turn around, he'd say. Never did turn around, though. I lived modestly, all things considered. Nice apartment in Shaker Heights, nothing flashy, but I invested carefully over the years, built up a portfolio worth about $2.7 million. Had a retirement plan, had it all mapped out. Then last February 12th to be exact, I was performing a routine procedure, aneurysm clipping, something I'd done hundreds of times. Halfway through, I felt this pressure, like someone was pushing on the side of my head, then numbness in my right arm. I remember thinking, this isn't happening, not to me, not now, but I knew exactly what was happening. I managed to step back from the table, said something to my assistant, must have slurred my words because she looked at me strange. Then my legs gave out, stroke, left hemisphere. Damaged my Broca's area, that's the part of the brain responsible for speech production. You'd think after all those years of explaining this to patients and families, I'd be prepared. I wasn't. Woke up in the ICU, could understand everything, could think clearly, but when I tried to speak, nothing came out right. Words all tangled up, couldn't form the sentences, could barely get my name out. They call it expressive aphasia. My thoughts were clear. I knew exactly what I wanted to say, but the connection between my brain and my mouth was broken, like trying to type with gloves on. You know what keys you want to hit, but you keep missing. Philip visited me during recovery. First time in months I'd seen him. Don't worry about anything, he told me. I'll take care of everything until you're better. Patted my shoulder, smiled. I believed him. 3 months into my rehabilitation, I received court documents, just like that. No warning, no discussion. Philip had petitioned for guardianship, claiming I was mentally incompetent to manage personal affairs, using my compromised speech as evidence of cognitive decline. The hearing was scheduled quickly, too quickly. I tried to prepare, but how do you defend yourself when you can't speak, when every word is a struggle? Courtroom was small, Judge Harriet Klein presiding, gray hair, stern face. She seemed tired, like she'd seen too many sad cases. Philip sat with his attorney, expensive suit, blue tie, hair freshly cut. He looked professional, trustworthy. He didn't look at me when I entered. His lawyer spoke first. Your Honor, this is a difficult but necessary petition. Dr. Warner suffered a severe stroke that has compromised his ability to communicate and make sound decisions. His substantial assets require protection during this vulnerable period. I tried to object, tried to explain, but the words came out wrong. I can think, fine. Long pauses between each word, voice slurred, face contorted with effort. The judge looked at me with sympathy, or maybe it was pity. Hard to tell the difference sometimes. Dr. Warner is clearly struggling to communicate basic concepts, Philip's attorney observed, voice dripping with fake concern. His financial assets require protection during this difficult time. Then Philip spoke, voice steady. Practiced. I've noticed alarming changes in Stephen's behavior since his stroke. Last week, I found unpaid bills piling up. His investment accounts haven't been monitored in months. I'm concerned he might make impulsive decisions that could jeopardize his future. Lies, all lies. I'd set up automatic payments years ago. My financial advisor handled my investments. Philip knew this. The judge asked if I had representation. I didn't. Hadn't been able to arrange it. Couldn't make the calls. Couldn't explain what I needed. She asked if there was any professional assessment of my cognitive functions. There wasn't. Just my medical record stating expressive aphasia following ischemic stroke. Nothing about cognitive abilities. I tried again. I understand everything, just can't. The rest wouldn't come. My fist pounded the table in frustration, made me look unstable. The judge ruled in Philip's favor. Temporary guardianship, with review in 6 months. Just like that. Gave him control over my medical decisions, my home, my entire portfolio. As we left the courtroom, Philip finally looked at me. Just for a second. Something in his eyes. Triumph, maybe, or relief. Then it was gone, replaced with that practiced concern. I'll take good care of everything, Stephen. You just focus on getting better. I nodded. What else could I do? I didn't have an outburst. Didn't try to fight. That's what everyone expected, I think. The angry, frustrated patient, the man who can't accept his new limitations. Instead, I went back to my rehabilitation center, focused entirely on my therapy. Speech therapy with Dr. Eliza Brahms. 3 hours daily. Eliza was young, maybe 35, sharp eyes, sharper mind, specialized in patients with aphasia. First day after the hearing, she noticed something was wrong. You seem different today, she said. I showed her the court order. Took me 10 minutes to explain what happened. She listened, really listened, didn't rush me, didn't finish my sentences. When I finished, she said, "This isn't right." Simple as that. I work with aphasia patients every day. Speech impairment doesn't equal cognitive impairment. She started documenting everything, every session, every test. Recording my cognitive functions using specialized assessments designed specifically for patients with expressive aphasia. Tests that separated language production from reasoning ability, problem-solving exercises, strategic thinking assessments, memory retention, executive function evaluation, all recorded, all documented, all showing the same thing. My cognitive abilities were intact. My brain worked fine. I just couldn't express it through speech. Meanwhile, Philip moved fast, informed my bank of the guardianship, changed passwords on my accounts, listed my apartment for sale. Too much maintenance for someone in your condition, he explained. He started consolidating my investments, withdrew $50,000 for unnecessary modifications to accommodate my condition, bought a new Mercedes the following week. Coincidence, I'm sure. I observed, made notes, simple words I could manage. Names, dates, amounts. Kept track of everything. What Philip didn't know was that I had set up alerts on all my major accounts years ago. Every transaction over $10,000 triggered an automatic email. Those emails still came. I could read them, could understand them perfectly. He also didn't know about my offshore account. Small, by comparison, just about $300,000 in a Cayman Islands bank, emergency fund. Hadn't told anyone about it, not even my financial advisor. Definitely not Philip. From that account, I paid Eliza for additional sessions, private sessions, not covered by insurance, not part of my official rehabilitation, just us, documenting everything. I also hired a private investigator, man named Victor Reese, ex-police detective, specialized in financial fraud. Didn't need many words to explain what I needed. Just showed him the court order and wrote down, "Follow the money." Victor was efficient, discreet, sent reports via encrypted email. Documented every purchase Philip made with my money, every transfer, every withdrawal. 3 weeks after the guardianship began, Philip moved into a new apartment, downtown, penthouse, $8,500 monthly rent, paid 6 months in advance. With my money, I didn't confront him, didn't let on that I knew, just nodded when he visited. Let him think I was resigned to my situation, dependent, grateful even. Inside, though, I was building my case, piece by piece, methodically, the way I used to prepare for complex surgeries, gathering information, planning each step, anticipating complications. What Philip never understood about me was my patience. As a neurosurgeon, I'd learned to work slowly, methodically. One wrong move could be catastrophic, so you plan, you prepare, you wait for the right moment. I started meeting with Eliza 3 times a week for those additional sessions, each one carefully structured to document specific cognitive abilities, logic, reasoning, memory, financial comprehension. She designed tests that required minimal verbal response, multiple choice, visual matching, problem solving through demonstration rather than explanation. We're building a case, she told me, solid, undeniable, based on objective measurements, not subjective impressions. Took me almost a month to reach out to my old colleague, Dr. Richard Meyer, neurologist, specialist in cognitive assessment. We'd worked together for 15 years, trusted him completely. Getting the message to him was hard. Couldn't just call, couldn't explain what I needed in an email. So I sent a text. Need help. Professional, urgent. He came to the rehabilitation center the next day, looked shocked when he saw me, not because of my condition, because of how I was living. Basic room, minimal comforts. Not what you'd expect for someone with my resources. Took me nearly an hour to explain everything. Richard listened, asked questions, took notes. This is elder abuse, he said finally. Financial exploitation. And I'm not letting it stand. He brought in another specialist, Dr. Sarah Chen, neuropsychologist, expert witness in competency cases. She administered a complete cognitive assessment battery. Tests designed specifically for patients with communication disorders. Results were clear. My cognitive functions were above average, even accounting for my age and condition. My financial comprehension was intact. My decision-making abilities were sound. While this was happening, Victor continued tracking Philip's activities. He documented a pattern, large withdrawals from my investment accounts, followed by transfers to Philip's personal accounts, new purchases appearing regularly, artwork, electronics, designer clothing. Most damning of all, Philip had started negotiations to sell my medical patents. I had developed surgical techniques over the years, held patents worth considerable sums. Philip had no right to sell them, had no understanding of their value, was practically giving them away. Victor also discovered something unexpected. Philip had gambling debts, significant ones. About $400,000 owed to people you don't want to owe money to. That explained the urgency, the aggressive liquidation of my assets. Meanwhile, I continued my regular therapy, made progress, slow but steady, could form short sentences with fewer pauses, could write more clearly, still struggled with complex communication, but the improvement was noticeable. Philip visited less frequently, always in a hurry. Always with news about some financial decision he'd made, for my benefit, never asking what I wanted, never consulting me on any decision. During one visit, he mentioned selling my book collection, first editions, medical texts, some quite valuable. "You don't need these anymore," he said, flipping through a rare edition of Gray's Anatomy, "just taking up space. Besides, the money will help cover your care." I wanted to protest, to explain what those books meant to me, but I just nodded. Let him think I didn't care. Better to let him underestimate me. Better to let him think he'd won. By month 4, we had everything we needed. Comprehensive cognitive assessments from 2 specialists, financial records showing systematic misuse of my assets, documentation of Philip's gambling debts and extravagant purchases. Most importantly, we had Eliza's detailed records showing my cognitive abilities had never been compromised. Daily tests, video recordings, incontrovertible evidence that I was, and always had been, competent to manage my own affairs. The 6-month review was approaching. Time to put the plan into action. I contacted Andrea Fulton, attorney specializing in elder law and guardianship cases, 20 years experience, high success rate, no-nonsense approach. Meeting her was critical. Had to convince her I was competent despite my speech difficulties. Brought Eliza with me to help translate when my words failed. Andrea's office was small but elegant. Bookshelves lining the walls, diplomas and certifications framed behind her desk. She watched me carefully as I entered, evaluating, assessing. I placed my file on her desk. Inside, complete medical records, cognitive assessments from Dr. Meyer and Dr. Chen. Financial records compiled by Victor, Eliza's detailed documentation of my daily cognitive functioning. I need representation, I said slowly, carefully forming each word. Andrea reviewed the documents silently, occasionally glancing up at me. After 20 minutes, she closed the file. Dr. Warner, based on these assessments, you should never have been placed under guardianship. This appears to be a clear case of financial exploitation under the guise of protection. Relief washed over me. Someone in authority finally saw the truth. Can you help? I asked. Yes, she said simply. I can and I will. Andrea moved quickly, filed a petition to terminate the guardianship, requested a formal review of Philip's financial activities as guardian, asked for an emergency hearing based on evidence of financial misconduct. We also implemented what Andrea called a documentation strategy. I started carrying a small digital recorder. Every interaction with Philip recorded, every comment about my finances preserved. During his next visit, I let him talk freely about his plans for my property. The apartment should sell quickly, he said, not looking at me. Prime location. I've already had several offers. I pressed record on the device in my pocket. I've also been consolidating your investments, simplifying things. Those tech stocks were too volatile anyway. He didn't mention he'd moved those funds to his own accounts. What about patents? I asked slowly. Oh, those old things. He waved dismissively. Nobody's interested in surgical techniques from 10 years ago. Technology moves too fast. Lie. I'd received royalty payments just last quarter. Substantial ones. Besides, he continued, managing those patents was costing you money in legal fees. I took care of it. Another lie. The patents generated far more income than they cost to maintain. When he left, I sent the recording to Andrea. Another piece of evidence, another nail in his coffin. The emergency hearing was scheduled for the following week. Faster than we'd hoped. Judge Klein again, same courtroom. This time, I wasn't alone. Andrea sat beside me. Eliza, Dr. Meyer and Dr. Chen waited to testify. Victor had provided his full report on Philip's financial activities. Philip arrived looking confident. Same expensive suit, same practiced concern. He faltered slightly when he saw my team, but recovered quickly. Leaned toward his attorney, whispered something. They both smiled, still certain they had the upper hand. The hearing began. Andrea presented our petition clearly and concisely, explained that new evidence had come to light, evidence that would prove I had never been cognitively impaired, evidence that would show financial exploitation by my appointed guardian. Judge Klein listened attentively. Her expression gave nothing away. When Andrea finished, she looked at me directly. Dr. Warner, would you like to make a statement? I had prepared for this. Had practiced a short, simple statement that would demonstrate my competence while acknowledging my speech limitations. Yes, Your Honor, I began slowly. I understand everything around me. My thoughts are clear. I just cannot speak normally. Each word was an effort, but I got them out, clear enough to be understood. The assessments will show. My mind is fine. My brother took advantage of my condition. I slid a handwritten statement across to the judge, something I'd prepared with Andrea's help, concise, direct, outlining the key facts of the case. Judge Klein read it carefully, looked up at me, then at Philip, then back to me. "I'd like to hear the expert testimony now," she said. Dr. Meyer testified first, explained the difference between expressive aphasia and cognitive impairment, presented the results of his assessments. In my professional opinion," he concluded, "Dr. Warner's cognitive functions are completely intact. His financial comprehension and decision-making abilities score well above average. His only limitation is in expressing his thoughts verbally, a limitation that can be accommodated through alternative communication methods." Dr. Chen's testimony reinforced these findings. She presented detailed test results, showed comparative data from other patients with similar conditions. "There is absolutely no clinical justification for a guardianship based on cognitive incompetence," she stated firmly. "Dr. Warner's inability to speak fluently has been incorrectly conflated with an inability to think clearly." Then came Eliza. She brought video recordings of our sessions, showed the judge examples of complex problem-solving tasks I had completed successfully, despite my verbal limitations. "And I've worked with Dr. Warner daily for 6 months, she testified. "His cognitive abilities have never been in question. Only his verbal expression was affected by the stroke, and even that has shown significant improvement." Philip's attorney tried to challenge their credentials, questioned their objectivity, suggested they were friends doing me a favor. "Dr. Meyer worked alongside the petitioner for 15 years, he pointed out. "Hardly an impartial assessment." Judge Klein seemed unimpressed by this argument. "Are you suggesting that Dr. Meyer would risk his professional reputation by providing false testimony?" The attorney backpedaled. "Of course not, Your Honor. I'm merely suggesting that personal connections might color one's professional judgment." Then came the financial evidence. Victor's report, detailed documentation of every transaction since the guardianship began, every withdrawal, every transfer, every purchase. Andrea presented it methodically. $50,000 withdrawn on March 15th, allegedly for home modifications. No modifications were ever made. The following week, the Guardian purchased a Mercedes sedan for $68,000. She continued, $25,000 withdrawn on April 3rd for medical equipment. No medical equipment was ever purchased or delivered. The pattern was clear, undeniable. Over $600,000 had been diverted from my accounts in just 4 months. Another $1.2 million investments had been liquidated. The funds moved to accounts I had no access to. Philip shifted uncomfortably in his seat, whispered urgently to his attorney, the confident smile long gone. Then Andrea played the recordings. Philip's voice, clear as day, discussing how he planned to sell my patents, how he'd already taken care of it, his dismissive comments about my book collection. Judge Klein's expression hardened as she listened. When the recording ended, she turned to Philip. "Would you care to explain these discrepancies, Mr. Warner?" Philip straightened his tie, attempted to regain his composure. "Your Honor, managing my brother's assets has been complex. Some investments needed to be restructured for better returns. The car was purchased to transport Stephen to medical appointments. Everything I've done has been for his benefit." The judge looked skeptical. "And the patents, the book collection, were those sales also for his benefit?" "The patents weren't generating significant income," Philip claimed, "and Stephen had mentioned wanting to downsize his possessions before his stroke." Another lie. I'd never said any such thing. Judge Klein turned to me. "Dr. Warner, did you authorize your brother to sell your patents or book collection?" "No," I said firmly. One word. No struggle, no hesitation. The judge nodded slowly, looked down at the documents before her. When she looked up again, her decision was clear in her eyes. "Based on the evidence presented today, I am terminating the guardianship effective immediately. The medical assessments clearly establish Dr. Warner's cognitive competence despite his speech limitations." She paused, glancing at Philip. "Furthermore, I am ordering a complete forensic audit of all financial activities conducted under this guardianship. Mr. Warner, you are to provide complete records of all transactions, withdrawals, and transfers made from Dr. Warner's accounts within 5 business days. She wasn't finished. I'm also issuing a temporary restraining order, preventing you from accessing any of Dr. Warner's accounts or assets pending the completion of this audit. Should the audit confirm financial exploitation, this court will refer the matter to the District Attorney's Office for potential criminal charges. Philip paled. His attorney leaned in, whispering urgently, but it was too late, much too late. I felt no triumph, no satisfaction, just a quiet certainty that justice was finally being served. As the hearing concluded, Philip tried to approach me. Andrea stepped between us. "My client has nothing to say to you," she said coldly. "Any further communication should go through me." We left the courtroom. I didn't look back. The weeks that followed were busy, regaining control of my accounts, assessing the damage, working with forensic accountants to trace and recover diverted funds. The audit confirmed what we already knew. Philip had systematically looted my accounts, nearly $800,000 gone completely. Another $1.2 million moved to his personal accounts, recoverable but not without legal action. The District Attorney's Office opened an investigation, financial exploitation of a vulnerable adult, felony charges. Philip hired an expensive criminal defense attorney, pled not guilty, claimed everything was a misunderstanding. His credibility was shot, though the evidence was too clear, too damning. The bank records, the recordings, the pattern of deception. While the criminal case proceeded, Andrea filed a civil suit, seeking full restitution, punitive damages, legal fees. "We're going to recover every penny," she promised, "and make him pay for what he did." I focused on my recovery, continued speech therapy with Eliza, made steady progress, could form complete sentences with fewer pauses, could hold basic conversations, still struggled with complex communication, but the improvement was noticeable. Returned to my apartment, the one Philip had tried to sell. Everything looked the same, but felt different somehow, tainted by his betrayal. My medical patents were safe. The preliminary agreements Philip had negotiated had no legal standing without my signature. My book collection remained intact. He hadn't gotten around to selling it yet. 6 months after the hearing, Philip accepted a plea deal. Guilty to lesser charges, financial restitution, 5 years probation, no jail time, but a felony record. His career in finance, such as it was, effectively over. The civil case was settled shortly after, full restitution for the missing funds, additional damages for emotional distress and breach of fiduciary duty, legal fees covered in full. The money came back, mostly. Some investments couldn't be recovered, sold at losses, the funds already spent. But the major assets were preserved. People asked if I felt vindicated, if I was satisfied with the outcome. The truth is, I felt nothing. No anger, no resentment, no satisfaction, just emptiness where family used to be. Philip tried to contact me after the cases were settled, left voicemails, sent emails. "I'm sorry. I made a terrible mistake. Please give me a chance to explain." I never responded. Some betrayals go too deep for forgiveness. Some trust, once broken, can never be repaired. It's been 2 years now since the stroke. My speech has improved considerably, still not perfect. Probably never will be. I pause between thoughts, search for words sometimes, but I can communicate effectively, can express my ideas. I retired from surgery, of course. Couldn't return to that life even if I wanted to. The precision, the quick decisions, the clear communication, all beyond me now. Instead, I teach small classes, graduate students, future neurosurgeons, share my knowledge, my experience. They're patient with my speech, appreciate the expertise beneath the halting words. I also consult on difficult cases, review scans, offer second opinions. found ways to contribute that don't require perfect speech. My financial situation is stable. New advisors, better security measures. Trust no one completely now, not even professionals. Verify everything. Philip moved to another state after the court cases. Florida, I heard. Starting over, I suppose. We haven't spoken since the hearing. Doubt we ever will again. Sometimes people ask if I miss my brother, if I regret how things ended between us. I don't. Some people enter your life like a virus, seem harmless at first, then reveal their true nature when you're at your most vulnerable. The stroke taught me about fragility, how quickly everything can change, how tenuous our control really is. But Philip taught me something more important, that speaking clearly and thinking clearly aren't the same thing, that silence doesn't equal weakness, that patience and preparation can overcome almost any obstacle. I still have the small digital recorder I used to document his betrayal. Keep it in my desk drawer, reminder of a time when I couldn't speak for myself, when words failed but resolve didn't. People underestimate the quiet ones, the watchers, the listeners. They mistake silence for acceptance, confusion for surrender. That's their mistake, their vulnerability, their blind spot, because sometimes the person who can't speak is the one you should fear most, the one observing everything, the one making careful notes, the one planning their next move while you think you've won. Words are just tools, useful, yes, powerful, certainly, but not the only weapons we have. Sometimes patience is stronger, sometimes silence is deadlier. Sometimes the most dangerous opponent is the one who has nothing left to lose, the one who's already lost everything that mattered, the one who knows exactly who you are and what you've done, and is waiting, just waiting, for the perfect moment to show you.